Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
ED.
Yo.
Just coming off a bye, just feeling refreshed. I don't know about you. Are you feeling refreshed?
I mean, I'm feeling good, but I didn't get a new tan like you.
This is the Believe in 49ers pod on Believe. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. Plenty to get to on this show. Hopefully, I'll work on my tan some more come December. That's another topic for another day. Look. If you enjoy the show, feel free to continue to subscribe, rate, and review. We're located wherever you find your podcast. Hit us up on social media. I'm at @Haylock on Twitter. He is at _Eric Davis _. And on Instagram, I'm at Watch Ray Ray. He is at ED25. It's midterms, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Your boy was never a good student, but I was decent at taking tests. I was decent at taking. Unlike you, you are an exceptional student. I was never really that guy, but I'm okay. I'm okay at taking tests. Anyways, it's midterms now for these Niners. We got some grades to hand out, ED.
Yeah, that's it. And I think you just downplay things. You always get into this self-deprecating mode when you start talking about yourself and talking about your accomplishments. But no, I know you are.
I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why I wasn't great at school. I'm gonna give you two reasons.
Okay, let me hear it.
Basketball and girls. And not always in that order.
But basketball and girls are always there. I played basketball, and I'm pretty sure there were girls in school when I was there.
But you also were able to multitask. All my attention.
Well, I got it. I got it. I could always well, school. I mean, I don't understand that, because if you played sports, and because you played sports, you would lock in on the things that were necessary for you to be good at sports, right? Okay. There's a rhythm to it. There's a technique to shooting a basketball. There's a technique to hitting a free throw. There was practice put into dribbling and all the things that you did, footwork and everything. It's the same thing with school. There's a method to it. There's a routine to how the information falls in place. And the same way I looked at it, and the way you look at it when a coach is teaching you something, what do? You pay attention to what the coach is saying, and you're like, okay, I'm going to take his example, I'm going to take his words, I'm going to put them into action, because if he's doing it that way, if I do it that way, it'll work. That's the same thing. That's the same way I always looked at class. If the person standing in front of me knows it, then that means it can be learned. So all I have to, so you see what I'm saying? It's not impossible. I already know it's not impossible to learn, because the person in front of me already knows it.
Yeah.
So since they know it, that means I can learn it. So regardless of what the material is, it's just a question of the method in which you put it together. It's the same way you you play football. You get into matrix. And there are certain angles. So it's leverage and angles and all this stuff. I told you this before in the pod, before the pod, after pod, whatever. I don't have to run a 4-2 to be able to cover a guy who runs a 4-2.
No.
So it's about the leverage and the angle that I take to be there at the same time the ball is going to be at whatever position it's going to be in. So it's just learning the math. It's geometry. Playing in the secondary is geometry.
There you go, geometry.
Yeah, so
they say students that didn't do well in algebra do well in geometry, and vice versa. I was the exception to that rule.
What you did poorly in both?
Yes. You're talking to him. You're talking to the exception.
I don't know, man.
Only two classes I ever had to take in summer school: Algebra 2 and geometry.
Yeah, no, that's funny, man.
Those are facts.
That's always been my thing when it comes to learning information. It's just a person that it depends on who is giving me the information. So school, that's what I'm saying. School was easy because I had a human being standing in front of me.
Yeah, I think school came easy to me. I think the reason I struggled is because I didn't necessarily try as hard. We all make choices, right?
Yeah.
I think I put more effort into other things besides school. I did enough in school to keep myself out of trouble.
That's true. And see, I grew up in a house where it wasn't an option.
Yeah.
It wasn't an option to get bad grades. It was you were expected, and so it was always instilled in me that you're supposed to get A's. That's just the way. That was just the way it was, and so because of that, and because my dad always, that's all I ever heard. That's all my siblings did. It's like, okay, that's what you're supposed to do. So it was just like figure out my routine, and I was always mad. And like I said, school didn't even come. Why are we talking about this? But this is the last thing.
Because we're handing out midterms.
Yeah,
we're handing out midterms.
That's how we got there.
That's right.
That's how we got there.
So how many A's are we going to hand out for this Niner squad? We'll get to that in just one sec. But as always, we want to remind you that the show is brought to you by the fine folks at Bet Online. Basketball, of course, is back.
You're gonna have to cut so much.
Oh no, they're gonna get all of this. Bet Online remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. They're gonna get my trials and tribulations in school, my ups and downs, why I am the exception to the rule. They're gonna get all of that. But as always, find the latest odds at Bet Online, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at Bet Online. And as your continued source for all sports wagering information, Bet Online features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports and events, whether that's the NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, or even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use your promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your rewards. Bet Online, where the game starts. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. I said they're going to get all. Look, this is why, the listeners of this pod love this pod, because they get authenticity. That's all we know how to be.
Or rants. However.
And with authenticity come rants from time to time. You're absolutely right about it. Sometimes we just got to reel it in, but we talked about life choices. So you guys can rag on me all you want.
Both of us. That's what they'll rag on.
But,
they're going to be like, what are they talking about?
You're a scholar and an NFL and a professional athlete. There's not room for. I
don't know. No.
Yeah,
anyway,
let's keep going. You excel at the highest levels in both arenas, so there's not much wiggle room there. So look, Niners are 4-4, and they've had, I don't know if they've had this entire time to read their press clippings and hear and read people talk about just how great they are and how they are, ascending Super Bowl contenders, this, that, or the other. Like I've had the opportunity to listen to ever since the end of that Rams game going into the bye. That's all I've heard for the course of the last, week or so during this bye. So not sure how much that is infiltrated into the locker room or their own individual minds as they've migrated back to Santa Clara this week to get ready for the Chargers coming up on Sunday Night Football. We're going to get into that, ED's keys as well. But before that, time to hand out some grades. All right, we're going to go offense, defense. We're going to go by position group, right? So here we go. Midseason grades for the Niners. We'll just start quarterback first. And I'm going to write this stuff down or type it just to keep a tab of where we are.
Okay.
So you'll go first, ED, and then I shall go second. We'll just start offensively. You got to start right there at QB at quarterback position. What would you grade the quarterback position?
I'll give it a C.
Ooh, okay.
I'll give the QB position a C. That's it. You're looking at number one thing you're graded on as a quarterback is wins. So we can put a lot of other things into place, and we can talk about plays made, plays not made, all of those scenarios, calls. But at the end of the day, the heaviest weight on you is a 4-4 record. Can't get more average than that. So I combine that with some of the play that I've seen. I'm going to give you a C. That's the best grade I can give you.
I agree with that. I'll give you a C. I think the quarterback play has been subpar at best. And this is even obviously with 10 taking over, right? I mean, he's played the majority of the snaps. The team obviously is average at 4-4 going into the bye. I think once 10 took over, there was this expectation that all of a sudden this team was going to ascend to the top of the NFC West, and expectations were going to change. All of a sudden, it didn't become about, maybe we can make it to the playoffs. it became about, oh, this is a team that could take 6. And so far, through the first 8 games of the season, we have not really seen that in its totality. We've seen it in bits and pieces here and there, but I would agree. I would say C, and I think that's being generous considering the quarterback has given up 4 points this season. Running back.
Running back position. Running back position. I'm going, wow, C minus. C minus. I think that's being generous. The offense is built around the running game, and you're just not able to get anything generated from that position. Now, also you got to take into account the injury, so that's why I'm going to give you a C minus and keep it there. And I'm taking in account that you lost Elijah Mitchell, the guy that you were expecting to be the weight bearer. So there we go. That's where they're at right now, even with with the addition of Christian McCaffrey.
I will.
What you got? Don't get scared now.
I'll go a little bit higher than the C minus. I'll just go C. I think you add the injuries. I think the O-line play hasn't been great as well. I think that factors in. I think the quarterback play hadn't been great either, so that factors in. So I'll go C. Average at best. At best. Yeah. Wide receiver.
Wide receiver position. See, this is a hard one for me.
It's a tough one, right?
Because I think you have B wide receivers, but you got to add in the quarterback play, which takes them down because the guys you can't catch the ones that's not coming to you. That's it. I mean, that's a major part of what's happening. I think the wide receiver position is fine. I think that Ayuk and Debo are good receivers. I got to factor in, and I'm not gonna. It's hard. I know the numbers aren't there, but I know they're good players, and I know that they make plays and they produce when given the opportunity. They're just not getting the opportunity. And that goes to quarterback and play calling. So people this might sound weird, but I'm gonna give those guys a B.
Interesting. Okay. I like where you went there with B. I'm going to go kind of for the same things that you said. I'm going to go B minus. I think BA has played well. I think Debo has been there in spurts. We've seen a little bit of Jennings here and there. I think there's more to be had from the wide receiving group.
I agree.
That's not just those guys, right? You got to factor in some of the other guys as well.
Yes.
Like a Ray, right? I mean, there's some plays that's been left out there on the field. And so I think when you put all that together, I'll go B minus. So that's slightly above the quarterback play, but not too far off. So I'll go B minus there. You went B, I'll go B minus. Offensive line.
Offensive line. I feel better about the offensive line than you do.
Yeah.
Because you make it seem like they are the reason, and I don't think that's the case. But again, you're a 4-4 team, and I know I'm sounding like a broken record on this, but it's an average offense at best. Is C. It's an average line, average offense. That's what they're showing. I could go into and give a little bit more on it, but there's no reason for me to fluff up a C.
Yeah, I'll go C minus there. I think you're right. You are a little bit higher on them than I am. I think I will factor in a couple things as well, right? You got some inexperience at the center position, and then you also have some games where you missed your best player, right? In Trent. And so you factor in all those things in. I think they've left some stuff out there during this first half of the season.
Well, see, but I'm gonna factor it. Even if you factor it, see, that's what I'm saying. Even if you look at it, even when Trent's out there, the line's not great.
Not great, no.
So that's what I'm saying. Nothing's been great. The running game hasn't been great. I don't know if you'd say the protection has been great. It hasn't been bad. The running game hasn't been bad. It's not poor play. It's just average.
Well, I think the entire group, the entire offensive unit, I think against Seattle, you would agree, played well, right? Maybe even
Yes.
its best game of the season,
So
right? And
1 out of 7.
that looked, yeah, that's 1 out of 7, right? So
Yeah.
if
So
you
that wouldn't
say
even be average.
if you say that's where the bar was,
Yes.
right? They haven't gotten close to that the rest of the
No.
way, right?
No.
Maybe in the second half against the Rams, but not for the entire game, right? So there's been a lot there's been a lot left to for the imagination, if you will, right? And
Yeah,
so
you just haven't seen any
haven't
consistent
seen it.
play. You haven't seen where you get a game in which series after series things are going well to where the opposing team has to prevent them from doing well. It's like they normally, stub their own toe. Or when you say, like, you see the Seattle game, you can't do it week after week. And that's what a really good football team does. A good team is going to go series after series, and then you're going to go week after week. And the good organizations do it season after season, year after year. That's what makes you great. And they can't seem to put together a string of really good games they didn't the first half. Now that's why we're giving them these C's.
Yeah, left to be desired is, I think, is what I was looking for. The phrase that I was looking for. Let's go tight ends. What you got for the tight end group?
Wow, D at best.
D,
But
as
you
in
tell
dog.
yes.
Wow. Okay, we're way
Yes.
off on this.
I mean, you got an all-pro. So this is the thing. Your standard at the tight end position is all-pro football. You're not getting all-pro football from your tight end position. You're not even close to all-pro football at your tight end position. Now, I know what I'm going to hear probably is that, man, he's blocking really, really well, and he's doing all of that. It's great. There ain't a tight end on planet Earth that's ever made the Pro Bowl for his blocking. Okay. Yes, he's a good blocker. We already talked about the fact that his blocking is adding to an average at best offensive line, correct? Mm-hmm. So how is that elevating anything? So he's blocking really, 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 really great, kicking ass, and the unit is average, because that becomes a part of the offensive line that we've already graded, that we both agree is a C. You say C minus. So I don't even think it's remotely close to the level of expectation at that position. That's D for me.
See, I look at this different than you do.
You always do.
I see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying, but we're way off on this. Like, way off. You give them a D, I'll give them a B.
Okay.
I actually think this has been the best performing unit on the offense. Now, granted,
wait, hold up.
The bar has been you got an all-pro tight end, right? Like, I give you that, right? Similar to how I'm not going to penalize the wide receivers for the lack of targets. I don't know if I can necessarily penalize 85 for the lack of targets, right?
Okay.
But I think he's done a good job of catching the ones that come to him, as you mentioned as well. I think Dwelly has done a pretty decent job as well, and in the blocking game, I think they've contributed in that aspect as well. So the fact that the numbers aren't there, just like the wide receiver position, or actually even more than the wide receiver position, because I think there has to be more. You have to be more intentional about getting 85 involved. If you're Kyle, I don't know that I can blame them for Kyle, if that makes any sense, right? And I don't know that. I don't know why it has to be that way in terms of the intentionality, but it seems like with Kittle, for whatever reason, it has to be more intentional from Kyle's standpoint to be able to get him involved. And it seems like we've been having the same conversation for the last 1.5 seasons, right? Basically since the end of, actually last 2 seasons probably, right? 2.5 seasons now, right? I mean, 19, he was awesome. 2020 injuries, he was a part of that. Last year, we talked about it the whole season long for the most part. And then here we are now. And the games where he shows up in the passing game, particularly Kittle, it's what? Those first 15.
Yeah, and then those first 15 is like what, 1 or 2 catches?
Yeah,
It's 1 or 2 catches. And how many games has he missed this year?
he missed the opener against Chicago. I believe he was
Or what,
back
2
in there
games? Is it 2
against
or 3?
Seattle. I believe he was back in there against Seattle.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I love the fact that you lower your standards based on position or player, because that's what you just did. That you truly did. You truly said
I lowered my standards.
well, that's exactly what you said. And I'm going to look at this
He
differently
missed the
because
Seattle game as well. So he
okay, I
played
thought he missed a couple
six.
of
He
games, and
played
I
six. He's
thought
played in
so.
six. So they
I thought so, and I was going to say so. Like you lower your standard because you're basically saying I know that you are an all pro, but what I'm going to say is that you're not playing all pro ball because that's how you started this off. Now I can blame their things, and we'll get to the coaching staff, but Kyle is not the reason that you're missing time on the field. And I think I still think get open in
mm.
some situations, get open because you're not always open. He's not the same guy.
The tight end is open on every play. What do you mean?
Let you tell it. So that's all I'm saying. So I wait, and it's okay. So you say B, we're way off on this. And
We're way off on this one.
you give them a B, and I'm still trying to see how you started off because I if A is all pro, which his standard, and you got him at a B, I don't see how he's remotely anywhere near a shell of what I've seen his all pro seasons look like. I don't even think it's close to it. And
I
that's
mean,
what
he's not an A plus.
and that's
All
what
pro
I
season would be an A plus, right? He's
okay.
not there.
So that's
He's not a B plus either. He's
okay.
right smack dab.
So you put
in
it,
the
but I
middle.
mean, bro, you and I both know so A plus and B. I mean, they're not on the same block, but they're in the same neighborhood. He ain't in the same neighborhood, in my opinion, right now. And see, that's what I'm saying. You're lowering your standard because you're basing your standard on everybody else's play right now, as opposed to the standard he set. And remember, I told you that's the difference. And that's I'm just saying, this is what I was taught as a Niner. Dude, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is the expectation. Don't be afraid to be great. Guy McIntyre just said all the time, don't be afraid to be great. Because you know what happens? When you do something great, that's your standard. That's what we expect you to do now. You can't come back. You don't get to come back from that. We no longer judge you by what you were before the greatness. That's you shown. This is the level you play at. What do we talk about all the time when we talk about Jason Verrett? Oh, we're like Jason Verrett gets back to that level. Yeah. We don't say if he can just come in and be a solid backup and all this stuff. Yeah. We're like Jason Verrett gets back to his all-pro level. That's the standard. That's the expectation. So that's what I'm saying. You lowered your standard for the tight end position because you're giving a mulligan to an all-pro. I don't do that. That's all I'm saying. And because I don't see all-pro ball, I don't even see close to it. That's why I went D. But we can move on. Just me.
This is the Believe in 49ers podcast on Believe. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. We're giving out mid-season grades here for the 49ers. We just went through the offense. We'll go through the defense as well. That one coming up after this from Butcher Box. Okay, ED. So we just went through the entire offense. We handed out our mid-season grades. For quarterback, we both gave a C. Running back, you gave a C minus. I gave a C. Wide receiver, you went B. I went B minus. O-line, you went C. I went C minus. Tight end, we're in different stratospheres. You gave a D as in dog. I gave a B as in boy. Here we go. Defensive side of the ball now. Let's go D-line.
But keep going.
Where are we at on the D-line, ED?
D-line. D-line, man, I want to go B plus. B plus again. You're 4-4, so I can't. Nobody gets A's. But the D-line, with and without Bosa has still been exactly what they're supposed to be. It's the strongest unit on the team. You would expect them to be able to sort of be the tone setter, and be consistent. And I think it's been one of the more consistent. I think it's been the most consistently high unit on the team, even with the injuries.
Yeah, I will agree with you on that one. We both go B plus there. I think everything you said, and then you add in the fact that this team, has been without Kinlaw, has been without Armstead, who, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can write him in ink, every year prior to this. He's been out of the lineup as well, and then obviously Bosa has missed some time too. So you're
Yep.
talking about some stalwart, some starters on that on that defensive front, and this
The
team has
foundation,
still,
those are
yeah,
foundation pieces, not just
foundational pieces,
starters.
right?
Yes.
And yet you're still leading one of the best packs in the National Football League. So I think we both
Mm-hmm.
go B plus there. Linebacker core, what do you got there?
Linebacker core, that's another B unit. For me, it's a B unit. You have, because now I'm going to look at it. You have a Pro Bowl. You got an All Pro playing there. I don't think I think this his standard. Fred Warner, the standard that he has set, the standard that he's played, he's gotten himself back up to that level. He's playing at the level that you would expect him to play. It hasn't been consistent throughout the entire season, but and that unit hasn't been as consistently good as you expect it to be. But the ebb and flow has not been so drastic to where the valleys are miles away from the peak, and that's what I would expect from that position. So that's so I'm not going to change the standard like you do. The standard of play for that room has been set, and I think that they're not far off of the standard. I got to be again.
Yeah, you got B. I'll give it a B plus. I think Fred has Fred has played well. I think that unit as a whole, that group as a whole, has played well. I mean, you look at even some of the injuries there in that room, and how they've been able to sort of overcome that from that standpoint as well, and still play at a pretty high level. So I would go B plus. Secondary.
Second, this is the hardest one for me because the unit they've played well as a unit. Secondary is going to always give up plays, and people will pick out every play that happens. You're going to give up a play. It doesn't matter what you do, who you are. You're going to give up a play. But you're doing it. They're doing it without frontline guys, and without the frontline guys. So you start off without your proven leader and veteran back there in Ward. You got a first-year starter in Huff. Then you lose E-Man. Gibson comes in, he's starting. And I'll say the standard raised in that room than the previous season.
Even with Jimmy on the sideline, right?
With Jimmy, that's what I'm saying. With Jimmy on the sideline, so I'm saying you're going through all of these things and the changes, and you got different guys in. Yeah, they gave up some plays, so I'm going to keep them right there with the defense. It's an above average defense, and I think the secondary has played above average football, even though they've had some plays given up, but I think they've consistently been better. And I'm gonna give them a B.
Give him a B. I think the first quarter of the season, I think they were running away with it in terms of the best position group on the team.
Yes,
And,
without
and, I,
question.
and I probably would have had them at like an A plus. I think you factor in some of the injuries there. E-Man goes down.
Mm-hmm.
Mooney Ward obviously goes down. He comes back. Little thin at the cornerback
Yeah.
position, and so But they still have played pretty well. And even you go back to the last game against the Rams. I mean, obviously Cup is going to get his, and he always does against the Rams. But then what else happened, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. So,
Yeah.
I will stick with a B plus there.
Okay.
Special teams. What do we got? Summer's home.
Teams haven't been special at all. Teams have not been special.
Teams have not been special.
Teams have not been special. It's a C unit. There's nothing special about the unit at all. There's no threat of I don't there's no threat of your returner taking it back to the house. There's no threat of the big Woolick hit that's about to cause the fumble. They've made some plays here, there, but I mean, there's nothing about the team. It ain't the Tony Montana crew. It's just not that vibe. So C minus.
I would give it a C. I agree with you. I mean, nothing stands out. I think, we talk about Ray in the passing game. I think he's given a little bit of something in the return game. But once again, not. I feel punt has been okay. I mean, Robbie Gould has been. He's been. Nothing really sticks out about this.
That's what I'm saying. It's been okay. It's just okay. I mean, if we sit and we think and we try to wrestle out a play here and there, we may be able to come up. But the simple fact, that's what I'm saying, nothing jumps out, and something has to jump out. It's too important. The way this team is structured, the way this team is built, for them to be good, they have to play really good defense and they have to be really good on teams, and they're not. That's what I'm saying. It's C minus. They haven't been close to being really good on teams.
They have not impacted a game.
No.
Or had a fingerprint on any type of game where you'd be like, you know what, teams effort. We don't win that game without teams effort tonight. No. I don't think there's been a game this season in which we could say that. They gave up some stuff early in the season, if you remember. And so, yeah, I don't know that there's a game where they actually impacted it in a positive way. Coaches. Let's go to coach. Head coach.
Head coach right now, D.
Ooh. All right.
I mean, I think I could look at least 2 games. I've always
we're closer on this one, so I will say that we're closer on this one.
Yeah, I'm just saying, because we would talk about this, and I would always say, players win games. Players on the field, players are going to win games. It's up to players to get things done. Now, coaches are important, and you need a coach, because at the end of the day, the X's and O's don't move on paper. Players have to make a play. And if you're doing exactly what the coach tells you to do, and only what the coach tells you when he tells you to do it, it's just enough to get you beaten. You got to make a play. But you also need coaches to put you in the right situations, to make the right adjustments, to point out things that you may have missed or may have forgotten or haven't seen, or haven't had an opportunity because you're worried about this 300-pound X or O in front of you, and you're not seeing the big picture. And you need somebody that has that, that 1,000-foot view to say, look, this is what's happening. I think I can directly point to times where Kyle got outcoached in the 8, and because you need a coach to win 2 or 3 games for you with this decisions a season, to have a really good year, to have a double-digit win year. I think you can directly look at the season and say, in 8 games, easily twice, the other coach just, he played better chess. The other staff, they were better at moving the pieces around. And if I can do that, that puts you, that right there just tells me that you hadn't even been average so far. That's where I'm going D.
Yeah, I'm gonna go C minus, and I think there's a lot to what you said there. You talk about the Kansas City game in particular, right, where they just got outclassed.
Not even close.
It wasn't even close. The game, like I can be willing to forgive the Chicago game.
I can't. But you tell me why, and I'll tell you why I can't.
You got basically first year starter on the
Okay.
road in weather.
Okay.
And that, like, because I'm a firm believer that if 10 starts that game, they win.
I don't think it'll be any different because I saw a proven starter go on the road in rain up in Washington a few years back, and I think they kicked 3 field goals.
But they won.
Wait, but hold on. But I'm saying, but your offense, that was your offense. So I'm saying that you weren't able to do anything. It's not the first time you've played in those type conditions. You knew what the weather report was going to be. You had the entire off season to get that first year starter prepared and to do certain things, and you still weren't able to put anything on there. So I put that directly on the coaches. Not to mention Chicago's horrible. That's a horrible football team.
They're really bad. They're really bad.
That's a horrible team. So that's one that I'm saying that one can't be forgiven. The Denver Broncos are horrible.
For me, I can forgive the Chicago game. I can't forgive the Denver game.
Defeat. So okay. Okay. So I'm saying Kansas. So for me, and that's why I said I can easily look at 2. But Kansas City, Denver, you go to Chicago, and Chicago for me that's the worst one. I know it's tough to win a game on the road, but that was a horrible opponent, and you had nothing. You had nothing, and I'm sorry. And we continue to go back to the weather with that one. It's not the first time football has been played in the rain. I'm sorry. It's not. I played in the. Do you know how many times I played in the rain in Candlestick? And our offense put up 30. It's not the first time. It's not. And well, it wasn't raining like that. Well, we played on the rain in Cleveland and Philly and everything else. Up in the Meadowlands. You can't just shut things down because it rains. I mean, other teams play in weather and they score points. So back to that.
Kansas City, it's tough for me to put that on Kyle because I had that as a loss anyway. Now, I didn't have them getting outclassed the way they did, but I didn't necessarily have them winning that game.
Whether you win or lose, it's hard to win a football game, period. But you should be able, a good football team and a good coaching staff should be able to remotely adjust and keep a game close. You know how hard it is to beat a team in the NFL by 3-4 scores? It's not college. Every player on the field is as good as the other player that they're playing against.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I didn't have them winning that game, but I also didn't have them getting embarrassed in that game.
So that's what I'm. So when you say you can't put it on coaching, I got to put some of that on it.
I mean, some of that absolutely.
And that's another one where
Atlanta,
I think outcoached. You just flat out coached.
At Atlanta, I think that's on Kyle.
So you know what we're doing. So even if we're looking at this and we're going through this right now, you've already, because I'm saying like 4, you've already got 3 games where you're saying I can directly point to the coach and say he's the reason that we lost. So that's what I'm saying. I don't even see how you give him a C.
I mean, because I was, if you remember, like I was on alert going into that Atlanta game, right? I was like, be careful, right? Like this team is much better than its record, and I mean, you look at it now. I mean, they're not great by any means, but they're competing for their division, right? Yeah. We're seeing Mariota have some success that maybe he hasn't had before. We're seeing their coach squeeze a lot out of that lemon he's got out there in Atlanta, and so Yeah, how could give him a C minus? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I'm saying I don't know how you could give him a C minus when
You're
you're
right.
sitting here saying you're saying Chicago. Well, whether you gave him an excuse for Chicago,
Yeah.
Denver, you won't
I
excuse.
mean, three of the four losses. I mean, that's
3 of the 4 losses you are
yeah,
directly putting on him,
yeah.
and I can almost put
Or
on
two and
Phil.
a two and a half, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, Kansas City, that was going to be an L regardless. But I mean, I didn't have them getting smacked silly at home.
So basically, if he had not come, the team would be they'd have 5 to 6 wins. If you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you're looking at if he hadn't shown up on those days,
Yeah, I think we
that's
agree. This has not been his finest season. And
no.
look, I know there's been some injuries, this, that, or the other, but I think, and then I said this on the pod earlier this year. I thought he actually, to this point, I thought he actually did a better job in 2020. With all the injuries, right, that he
Yes.
dealt with, than I've seen him do this season in this first half of 2022.
Yeah, I agree. I think he did a better
A whole
job.
lot more competitive, and the
Yeah.
team was right there knocking on the door. For a play. I mean, they had opportunities where they were right there knocking on the door for a playoff position. And you look at where they are right now. I mean, they're still in it. Don't get me wrong, but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
just have not. They have not. They've looked like an average team through
Yeah. Through the first half,
the
and
first
so
half.
and hopefully, yeah. So that's where I'm at with that. Yeah.
So those are our grades, right? To recap for you, a quarterback, we both get it a C. Running back, ED goes C minus, I go C. Wide receiver, he goes B, I go B minus. O line, he goes C, I go C minus. Tight end, ED goes D, I go B. Defensive line, ED goes B plus, BB, and I give it a B plus all the way around. D line, linebacker, secondary, that is. And on special teams, he goes C minus, I go C. And coaching, he goes D, I go C minus. Yeah, I may have to change. Yeah, that might be a little too gracious on my part.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
we'll leave that.
The head coach is dragging down the score. That's
We
what it
will
is.
yeah, we'll leave that there. This is the Believe in 49ers podcast on Believe. He is Super Bowl champion Eric Davis. I'm Rahshaun Haylock. It'll be the Niners and the Chargers coming off the bye, right? Starting the unofficial start to the second half of the season. Now you got 9 games down the stretch. If you're the Niners, you got a Sunday night game at the house against the Los Angeles Chargers. I believe it was Sunday night last year where they played the Colts. Was that coming off a bye? That may not have been coming off a bye. Don't quote me on that one. But regardless of the case, this is a Chargers team that is coming off a pretty impressive win, right? They beat a team on the road that you lost to if you're the Niners, Atlanta, and they did so without their top 2 wide receivers. No Mike Williams and no Keenan Allen in that game, and a quarterback playing with some busted ribs in Justin Herbert. He got hurt earlier in the season. He's just kind of been trying to muscle his way through that. And so you look at this Charger team, Brandon Staley has a track record as in his short time now as a head coach as being someone who's going to gamble with those 4th downs. So if you're the Niners, you got to be prepared defensively to go out there and stop them on 4 downs, not necessarily forcing those 3 and outs unless you can get to the quarterback and force some 4th and long situations. So you got that thing going for you. When you look at the quarterback position, Herbert, you're talking about a guy who, even though he's injured right now and he's playing hurt right now, he's still amongst one of the top quarterbacks in the entire league and ascending, if you will. Not sure what the status is going to be of those wide receivers going in. Josh Palmer, who is talented in his own right, he stepped up and had a good game for them at the wide receiver position on Sunday in Atlanta. You got a running back in Austin Eckler who, for all those fantasy heads out there, he's a guy who can, get you a bunch of fantasy points, whether it's in the receiving game or whether it's on the ground, and finds ways seemingly every week to get into the end zone for scores. An offensive line that is missing its best player in Rashawn Slater at left tackle. And so I think you can get to Herbert. We saw the Denver Broncos get to Herbert on a Monday night earlier this year. If you're the Niners, you got to be licking your chops at the opportunity to be able to do that. And quite frankly, look, you're going after a quarterback who's not right, right? He's not right, but he's the best option that they have at this particular time. Defensively, you got to watch out for Khalil Mack. That is imperative. He is having a fantastic season, maybe even a throwback season, if you will.
Yeah.
Kind of quiet, last season with the Bears, but he certainly had somewhat of a resurgence. And when you get him and Bosa, the bigger Bosa, in there on opposite sides, that creates a ton of havoc. Big Bosa has been out of the lineup. He's been hurt, been banged up. So ED, you look at this Chargers team, and a guy in Brandon Staley who came from Sean McVay, spent 1 year as a defensive coordinator. This is a team that is awful against the run.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Shanahan likes to run, and he's got a brand new toy to play with. And it looks like Elijah Mitchell should be coming back too. If Jimmy shouldn't throw it more than 20 times in this one.
You keep going. See this one. See people. Now he always comes to me and like ED's keys to the game. No, these going to be Rahshaun keys to the game.
Oh no. This is your segment, brother.
Keep going. No. Well, this is but like you say, we try to keep it real. This is this team in and out.
I know the Chargers. Yeah.
You know the Chargers. And you, like I said, and I'm sitting here, and you keep doing what you're doing because I agree with you on it. Like you say, they're not great against the run. You got to be able to run the ball this game. You got your, if Mitchell comes back, whenever he gets, if whoever's dressed in the running back uniform and they're listed, as active, they should get the ball in their hands this game. You make them tackle you. That's the Chargers have not shown that they can stop the run. So you make them tackle you in that situation. I absolutely agree. Flipping over to the other side, you got cracked ribs. The quarterback's healing. He's not 100%. He's muffling through it. The offensive line does not protect him well. We already talked about the strength of this team is the defensive line. Young fellas, go eat. You should be pressuring. This is one of those games where your front has to get to the quarterback. I would expect to see some linebacker pressures in there as well. Fred Warner's going to get some hits on the quarterback this game. I think you make them beat you down the field. You make your DBs have to cover because you got to go after this quarterback and you have to hit him. That's all the stuff you've been saying. Keep going. I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll see some Huff too. Maybe Huff will get back there in the backfield and start doing those things. I think the running game has to be there. You got to pack your running game. Look, you got to. I mean, we talk about this all the time. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be flashy. I mean, you muck it up, but your running backs need to come to play. Your O-line needs to come to play because this is the team that this is who they've been under this coach. Awful against the run. And that's with an all-pro in Derwin James manning that secondary there, right? Like you don't want to be in a position where you're dropping 10 back and you're leaving possibilities or opportunities for Derwin James to have an impact on this game, whether he's coming in and crashing down on the quarterback or whether he's making a play out there in center field. He plays all over, similar to Huff.
Let me jump in right here on this. Well, we're ping ponging here these keys. With the run, Kyle's offense has been at its best. And I know I used to run you crazy when I would say this because you'd be like, they're only averaging 2 yards. I'm like, but he's committed to the run. And as long as he's committed to the run defensively, you have to be committed to stopping that run, which opens up all the opportunities for Jimmy. That's when Jimmy was at his best. He's been at his best when they are running the ball, 30 plus times. And he's going to this is one of those games where you need to do that. I think we both agree in that, where you got to get back to that. You have a running back in Christian McCaffrey that can do some damage. You got to make certain that you utilize that new tool that you have in the box. You make them have to tackle him. You take some of their playmakers in space, the Derwin James, as you were mentioning. You take that playmaker out you don't allow him to come back and roam and make plays down the field, because he has to be committed to stopping the run if you are committed to running it. So that, I think that's a major key going into this game. And hopefully Kyle finally listens to us on the
podcast. Kyle, come on, man. Like, give us a listen, huh? Subscribe, rate, review, Kyle. You hears. You know we out there. Kyle Shanahan.
Somebody tell him.
Those are ED's keys here on the Blue.
I know he hadn't listened yet, because he probably called me.
He ain't gonna call me. Those are ED's keys here on the Believe in 49ers podcast. It'll be the Niners and the Chargers, 5:20 p.m. local time on NBC. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark on the call if you're into that sort of thing. And it'll be Sunday Night Football, prime time for the Niners coming out the bye. So that's going to be huge, and hopefully start off the second half of the season with a bang. So from a partner, Super Bowl champion Eric Davis, I'm Rahshaun Haylock. This has been the Believe in 49ers podcast. Make sure you continue to download, subscribe, rate, and review. We're located wherever you find your podcast. Hit us up on social media. I'm at @RHaylock on Twitter. He is at _Eric Davis _ and on Instagram, I'm at WatchRayRay. He is at ED25. Niners, Chargers, Sunday night. We'll be back to break this thing down next week. This has been the Believe in 49ers podcast on Believe. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace.
Thank you for watching Believe. You can find more great content at Believe.com. That's BLEAV.com. Do you believe?